tonight.
We will recognize Palestine as a state, which has been long in the making, and at the moment is right.
A new push to recognize a Palestinian state as calls for a ceasefire in Gaza go unanswered by Israel. Plus, protecting against the dangers of artificial intelligence.
Beating our adversaries in this field means that we do not end up imitating our adversaries. Authoritarian regimes in China, Russia, and Iran have shown how AI technologies such as facial recognition can throttle dissent, oppress marginalized groups, and supercharge surveillance. The United States must not use AI so callously.
What's at stake for the nation's security? And
I think it's safe to say going to a border bill right now is just a gimmick.
The border security battle playing out in the United States Senate. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation.
Israel rejects a decision by 3 European countries to recognize a Palestinian state. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm Tara Mergener.
And from the CBN studio in Washington, I'm John Jessup. The international push for a Palestinian state is gaining ground. Spain, Norway, and Ireland all say they officially will recognize an independent Palestinian state as early as next week on May 28th.
And while this is largely a symbolic move, it signifies a growing rift between Jerusalem and Europe as the war in Gaza rages on. Today, Israel recalled its ambassadors to Ireland and Norway, and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called the move a reward for terrorism.
The intention of several European countries to recognize a Palestinian state is a reward for terrorism. 80% of the Palestinians in Judea and Samaria support the terrible massacre of October 7th. This evil must not be given a country. This will be a terrorist state. It will try to repeatedly carry out the massacre of October 7th, and we will not agree to that. A reward for terrorism will not bring peace, and it will not stop us from defeating Hamas either.
Meanwhile, the IDF pushed into the heart of Rafah today following a night of intense battles with Hamas. The United Nations estimates more than 800,000 Palestinians have fled the Gaza city since early May. The UN also says it is halting food distribution in Rafah due to supply shortages and dangerous conditions. And that includes aid delivered by a U.S.-made peer. Israel maintains it has no other choice to go after Hamas in Rafah after negotiations for a ceasefire and hostage release have failed. And as the battle between Hamas and Israel continues in the Middle East, Washington lawmakers want to use technology to protect and defend the U.S. homeland.
A House subcommittee questioned experts from the private sector about how best to harness AI, both keeping pace with our adversaries while using the advancing technology in a responsible way. CBN national security correspondent Caitlin Burke joins us now with more. Caitlin, I'd imagine to some extent artificial intelligence is already being leveraged here in the United States.
John, Tara, the Department of Homeland Security specifically has been exploring ways to implement AI into its mission for years. During today's hearing, Chairman Mark Green pointed out some of the ways it is already being used.
U.S. Customs and Border Protection has used AI-powered systems to monitor border areas using drones and cameras, which help identify suspicious activity and unauthorized crossings in real time.
A few priorities for this hearing included how to keep up and leverage AI effectively as it continues to rapidly advance, and how to use the technology in a way that's in line with our democratic values, protecting privacy and civil liberties. John, Tara?
Well, Caitlin, what kinds of safeguards need to be in place to make sure that happens? And is it possible to keep pace with our adversaries who aren't slowing to take those kinds of precautions?
Something just about every expert on today's witness panel stressed is that the quality of the data given to AI systems matter, especially in the national security space.
For AI technologies, garbage in will lead to garbage out. Reckless deployment of AI technologies, such as using input data that is low quality or well beyond the bounds of what any given system was designed to analyze, will yield bad results. In the national security space, this could have dire consequences. Wasted resources, leading investigations astray, or triggering false alarms that leave genuine threats unattended to.
When it comes to our adversaries, Jake LaPerouse with the Center for Democracy and Technology said winning the AI arms race does not mean the fastest buildup.
Beating our adversaries in this field means that we do not end up imitating our adversaries. Authoritarian regimes in China, Russia, and Iran have shown how AI technologies such as facial recognition can throttle dissent, oppress marginalized groups, and supercharge surveillance. The United States must not use AI so callously.
He went on to list a few safeguards that should be put in place, including human oversight and review, independent testing, and the use of only high-quality, accurate data.
Caitlin, those tasked with defending our cybersecurity, what are some of the tools that they're using, and how are they benefiting from AI tools?
One thing talked about today is how AI helps cyber defenders sort through huge amounts of data to very quickly detect the threats. So while AI is helping our adversaries wage more sophisticated attacks, for example, instead of obvious phishing emails, AI can actually read someone's inbox and then mimic the language it sees there. On the defensive side, analysts can use their own AI tools to sort through every email and immediately find the ones that are malicious.
At the end of the day, the cyber analyst is being up-leveled in their ability to fight back.
Lawmakers acknowledged hearings like the one today really just scratched the surface of a very complex technology. But there's definitely a push in Congress to understand what's needed in terms of government regulation and partnership with the private sector, and a desire to ensure we make the most of AI without abusing it. John, Tara?
A little bit of a dual-edged sword there. Thank you so much, Caitlin. Well, Jack Denton is a researcher at the Heritage Foundation's Tech Policy, and he joins us now. Jake, welcome to you. I think I misspoke earlier and said Jack. With technology advancing and moving so quickly, it seems we're already behind in sorting out all the different challenges that are associated with it. DHS is now warning of a possible AI threat to the election. How real are those threats, Jake, and what safeguards do you think need to be put in place?
Yeah, well, you know, these threats to the election or in the context of national security are very real. But when it comes to artificial intelligence, everything is about use case. You know, the field in which this technology is being deployed will really determine the tools available at our disposal to, you know, rein in those kind of nefarious use cases or bad actors. So really, this is a struggle here to avoid these one-size-fits-all solutions and put forward really narrow and tailored solutions for maybe something in the national security domain or within an electoral context that both safeguard and still allow for this technology to flourish and reach its full potential.
And Jake, a Wisconsin man is accused of using a popular image generator to create thousands of explicit images of children. It's believed to be the first federal charge of its kind, and this is child porn floods the web with similar software. Since this is a relatively new phenomenon, what kinds of legal issues need to be sorted out in order to prosecute these cases?
Yeah, well, you know, there's a kind of an attempt here to obscure and make this as complicated as possible, you know, that somehow this AI-generated child porn is like an entirely new thing when really it is a byproduct of input data, right? The gentleman in the video previously you played was talking about the data in is really responsible for the data out. And so what is making it possible to generate these images is it's being trained on that same type of child sexual exploitative material. And so this is not some new or complicated issue. This is just another version of an existing problem, so it needs to be handled in the same way. If you're producing this content, if you possess this content, you should be subject to the exact same laws as you know, someone who's getting it the traditional way. So there's all sorts of, you know, legal questions, obviously, but it's important that we don't overcomplicate this or make it something it's not.
Whether producing or possessing that content, Jake, are tougher penalties the answer to deterring this type of crime? And if so, what do you think those penalties should be?
Yeah, well, I think really what's going to deter this the most is limiting the accessibility of these platforms. Believe it or not, you can actually get applications today on the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store that will remove the clothes from anybody. You know, you just upload a photo and it'll strip down the clothes and make a pornographic image. That's unacceptable. Platforms like the Apple App Store, Google Play Store should not make those tools available. And same goes for some of these more mainstream, venture capital-backed platforms that are generating these images. This should not be allowed. This should be a terms of service violation. When it comes to penalties, I think really what is going to be the struggle here is identification. There will be a lot of people who kind of obscure the age, right? Maybe the image, there's some level of ambiguity if it's a minor or if it's not. It's going to be very hard. And so identification and really eliminating the availability of these tools is going to be the path forward.
All right, the Heritage Foundation's Jake Denton. Jake, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, scary and complicated, right?
Definitely.
All right, turning to the border, with immigration being one of the top issues among voters this election season, the Senate will vote tomorrow on a border bill.
Both parties are already trading blame, with the bill widely expected to fail. CBN News senior correspondent Dale Hurd joins us now with more. Dale, it looks like we're talking about a bill that's dead on arrival.
It is, unfortunately, mostly political theater, the kind we see far too often on Capitol Hill, with each party seeking to damage the other on the issue.
Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has announced a second vote on the border bill for Thursday, even though all involved expect it to go down in flames. With Democrat candidates getting hammered on the border issue, there's a move to shift blame to Republicans for voting against the bill, which Democrats are expected to do when the Senate bill again fails to pass.
This is the same bipartisan border bill Republicans pushed for, then backed away when they got orders from President Trump, made an about-face, turned, and then voted no. If our bipartisan border bill was good enough to win support of the union that represents Border Patrol agents, why isn't it good enough for Senate Republicans?
Democrats charged that since Republicans see immigration as a winning issue in November, they don't actually want to see a resolution, while Republicans don't believe Democrats actually want to fix the problem either.
This bad bill is on a collision course now for a bipartisan beatdown because people see how terrible actually the legislation is. It doesn't move us forward, it moves us backwards.
This is an election year political stunt designed to give our Democratic colleagues the appearance of doing something about the problem without doing anything at all.
And signs today party unity on the issue is crumbling, with Democrat Senator Cory Booker saying he would not support the legislation. The Democrats' Plan B will be executive orders issued by the White House as soon as next month. According to reports, they would give the president the authority to shut down the border if there are more than 4,000 or more daily illegal border crossings over a week's time. But that number could change.
Republicans call this a national security issue. There were nearly 180,000 illegal immigrant encounters on the southern border in April alone. Tara.
All right, Dale, thank you. Well, turning now to that deadly storm system currently slamming the Midwest. Another round of wild weather flaring up tonight. It comes as families in Iowa are picking up the pieces after monster tornadoes ripped through the state last night. The storms killed multiple people and injured at least a dozen others. Communities near Des Moines and Greenfield in total ruin.
We do believe we have everybody accounted for, but we just want to make sure that with our search efforts, obviously this tornado has devastated a good portion of this town and community.
And right next door in Nebraska, widespread power outages reported after torrential rain there as tonight's threat continues. Meteorologists predicting the storms will unleash hail, high winds, and tornadoes along a 1,500-mile expanse from Texas all the way to Vermont.
Coming up, soaring food prices making it harder to afford groceries, and the retail rush to slash prices and save Americans money when Faith Nation returns.
Welcome back. Even though inflation is slowing down a bit, well, boy, John, food prices are still way high.
They certainly are. I'm not even going to tell you how much I paid for lunch today.
Uh-oh.
The White House, though, says it's some corporate grocery store chains that are taking advantage of the situation, further hiking prices. The Senate Banking Committee held a committee hearing today about lowering food prices and combating what some call corporate price gouging.
They can gouge consumers on prices because there is only a small number of companies controlling every level of the food chain. In plain English, giant grocery stores and massive food conglomerates are ripping people off.
Committee Democrats argue the grocery industry needs to be regulated and that massive food companies are responsible for the high prices. Republicans countered, blaming the Biden administration policies, which they say cost trillions of dollars and led to inflation across the board. Food prices expected to be a big campaign issue this year. And with that, let's bring in Mark Hamrick, Washington Bureau Chief and Senior Economic Analyst at Bankrate. Mark, welcome to you. So on the heels of posting its worst sales in 7 years, Target slashed prices on 5,000 products, following in the footsteps of Walmart and Aldi supermarket food chain. What's the reason behind the retailers' seeming benevolence?
That doesn't sound like price gouging, does it, John? Yeah,
maybe a little bit.
Great example of performative politics there. Companies are adjusting to consumers who are, trying to struggle to pay for necessities. And I just have to, blow a whistle on some of those comments. It's a highly competitive marketplace out there, and people have plenty of places in at least major markets to choose where they shop. Sure, there are some food deserts and neighborhoods and the other thing, but companies from McDonald's to Target to Walmart across the board are now looking and actually lowering prices. And I think this is the outlook for the fall and the coming months, where you can't push on a string forever. And we're seeing little change now on a year-over-year basis in food prices, and even less so on a month-over-month basis. I think the predominant direction of food prices between now and the end of the year, barring the unexpected, is going to be flat to lower.
So gouging may be a little bit sensational language, unless you're saying gouging in the eye of one's beholder.
Exactly.
There you go.
Mark, there's a new Guardian-Harris poll that shows a majority of Americans, 56% in fact, think we're in a recession, even though there's some technical evidence that points to the contrary. So what are the implications, not just in how Americans shop, but how they plan to vote and who they blame if they think we're in a recession?
Yeah, I saw that poll, and again, a huge disconnect from reality in the sense of the economy in terms of economic growth and the job market. Those things have performed well. We know that people are upset about elevated prices and inflation, and that's a reasonable response to that. But the economy itself, in the sense of the broader measures, is not in recession, and there's no real way to construct an argument that it is. Are there communities across the country or individuals who have not enjoyed the benefits of the expansion in recent years? Of course, and that's been the case for years and years and years. And so people are going to view the economy, I think, in the coming election, and we'll be surveying on this in the not too distant future, through the lens of their political views and making comments or decisions based on that. There's no question that inflation and elevated prices are a problem and a challenge. But as the saying goes, you have a right to your opinion, but you don't have a right to make up your own facts.
Mark, in the few seconds we have left, Memorial Day is right around the corner, which means we're about to kick off the summer travel season. President Biden is releasing 1 million barrels of oil from the Northeast gas reserve. With high inflation fueling consumer pressure on Americans' budgets, do you anticipate this might actually nudge some people in taking a vacation for those who might have been trying to save?
Well, those decisions have probably already been made, John. Gasoline prices are coming down ever so slightly, having contributed to last month's inflation. But the outlook is challenging because we're going right into the hurricane season, and that can take production offline. Right now, I'd say the outlook is for prices to remain flat for the near term. But as we know, those things can turn on a dime.
All right. Mark Hamrick with Bankrate. We always appreciate your time. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Okay, as President Biden hits a judicial milestone, former President Trump's legal team is back in court. The latest on the leading 2024 candidates next. An investigation is underway tonight after a suspicious package containing vials of blood shut down Republican National Committee headquarters in D.C. The discovery caused Capitol Police to evacuate the building this morning. After 2 hours, an all-clear was given. Politico is reporting, in addition to 2 sealed vials of blood, the package contained leaking ice packs. Capitol Police say the package and all its contents will be further investigated.
While Trump's hush money trial is wrapping up, his his classified documents case is entering a new stage.
That's right. Today, attorneys appeared in court for the first time since the judge indefinitely postponed the trial earlier this month. Trump's attorneys are asking for the charges to be dismissed. They say the indictment has technical issues and that the case is a political attack against the former president. Trump is accused by special counsel Jack Smith of taking classified national defense documents from the White House and refusing to give them back after leaving office. Yesterday, hundreds of previously sealed court filings were posted publicly. They revealed efforts by defense lawyers to exclude evidence obtained by the FBI during its raid on Mar-a-Lago in 2022. The case is just one of 4 criminal prosecutions against Trump as he tries to retake the White House in November. He has pleaded not guilty to all charges and denies any wrongdoing.
Well, the Senate voted today to confirm Joe Biden's 200th federal judicial nominee. The president hitting that milestone a month earlier in his office than his predecessor. Although it's still too soon to say if he can surpass former President Trump's term record of 234 confirmations. The new landmark is putting a renewed 2024 spotlight on the judiciary, especially the Supreme Court. 2 justices are currently in their 70s. It's believed the next president will likely have the opportunity to nominate at least 1 justice. Well, you've heard it before. I scream, you scream, we all scream for something strange. The crazy frozen treat craze next on Faith Nation. Finally tonight, when it comes to ice cream, there are of course the classics, chocolate, strawberry, and my personal favorite, maybe traditional, but tried and true vanilla bean.
All right, Rocky Road for me.
Rocky Road, I like it.
That's kind of traditional. And if you are a traditionalist, a new craze of unorthodox ice cream flavors, I think it's going to make people want to scream.
I think so.
We sometimes launch really unusual and surprising flavors because they work really well with the core of what we do. So an example of that would be the Kraft mac and cheese or a red currant ice cream. You know, flavors that people maybe haven't tried before, but when they try, they find really good and they want to have more of.
Yeah, I'd be needing a free sample of that before I bought it. All right, some of the specialty flavors released by New York-based specialty Van Leeuwen. Ice cream include that mac and cheese just mentioned, a pizza option, and even a collab with Hidden Valley Ranch. Oh my goodness. One food marketing expert puts it this way.
Thanks for watching.
Be careful.